The high point of the Afghan war after the withdrawal of Soviet troops in February was the siege of Jalalabad by the outside supported groups and Jalalabad's stout defense by the government forces. The Indian community in Jalalabad participated with great verve and fervor in the celebrations when peace returned to this township. This relative peace lasted a good 7 months until Ahmad Shah Massoud opened up a front in the north to give another twist to the Afghan drama. I met President Najib the same day as reports were received in Kabul of activity in the north. So even when the siege of Jalalabad was on, Ahmad Shah Massoud did not open up a front in the Panjshir Valley against the government. Now after 6 months, we hear reports that he has opened up a front again. What does this indicate? Have your negotiations with Ahmad Shah Massoud, by far the most effective commanders in the field on the opposition side, have your negotiations with him failed?
هم در هنگام حمله بالای جلال‌آباد توسط قشون مشترک نیروهای منظم پاکستانی ملیشیاشان.
During the attack of the Pakistani militia, Saudi Arabian mercenaries, the Afghan extremists on Jalalabad, Ahmad Shah Massoud's men did launch an attack in Selang, but they were not able to make much impact because of the strong blows of the armed forces of Afghanistan. However, the latest action of Ahmad Shah Massoud and his men is because the opposition has been accusing him that he has come to the side of the government. He wants to prove that he is not with the government, hence his recent skirmishes. But what others think is not important, and what Ahmad Shah is doing is not important. The experience of the last 7 months has shown that there is no military solution, and that the only solution is a peaceful settlement, dialogue, people's participation. We are fully confident that today or tomorrow, those who are interested in the future of Afghanistan will agree to the peaceful settlement. It is not important what certain groups of people think about a person. The important thing is that the person should stand by principles which have the people's support. It is much more important to prove your real self to the people at large.
The same day that we heard these reports, Mr. President, at Kabul airport, a UN plane was also hit. Do we get the impression that the war is intensifying again?
البته در مراحل مختلفی بعد از تکمیل عودت قطعات محدود اتحاد شوروی.
Following the withdrawal of Soviet troops from Afghanistan, the enemy and their international patrons, the United States, wanted their protege to have victory, and therefore they intensified attacks in Afghanistan. They wanted their puppets to have victory in Afghanistan. Attacks were carried out on Jalalabad, Kandahar, Khost, and so many other places. What are they doing? They will throw rockets on cities which will cause hardships to civilians, innocent men, women, and children. But there is no chance of their occupying or conquering the cities with these rockets. You were at the 9th Non-Aligned Summit at Belgrade. There we complained about these attacks over residential areas. We said this was an act of international terrorism. Public opinion, both inside the US and world opinion, is realizing this. The international community demands that the United States give up these terrorist activities against Afghanistan. At the 9th Summit of the Non-Aligned at Belgrade, a resolution was adopted condemning international terrorism. While we enjoy the support of the non-aligned movement in this regard, we believe that the US will use common sense and change its policies on the basis of the objective realities in Afghanistan.
There seems to be growing rapprochement between Moscow and Washington in diverse fields, in so many fields. Why then this intense disagreement over Afghanistan?
تا جایی که مربوط به اتحاد جماهیر شوروی هست او تعهدات خویش را
As far as the Soviet Union is concerned, it has faithfully observed the Geneva Accord. Regardless of the international situation, the United States did not only not adhere to the Geneva agreements, but grossly violated the Geneva Accords. Right now, the United States, under pressure from the American people, the American press, and American lawyers, is thinking of changing its policies.
So during the Brezhnev years, American policy was to bleed the Soviet Union inside Afghanistan. Now that the Soviet troops have left in February 1989, and the more open era of Mr. Gorbachev has been initiated in Moscow, a section of American opinion seems to have spotted the Central Asian Republic, the Muslim Central Asian republics, as the vulnerable underbelly of Soviet Union, where events can be influenced through a hard-line regime in Kabul. This is a school of thought. I'm just drawing you out whether you share any of this analysis.
که اداره و حکومت امریکا به حیث تکتیک و استراتژی در برابر شوروی کدام سیاست ها را
As far as specific American tactics towards the USSR are concerned, it is another matter. However, the reality has shown that after the withdrawal of Soviet troops, American tactics have been different. The US has continued to stress the military option. This has not won the approval of world opinion. Even the political allies of the US are questioning the wisdom of the US regarding Afghanistan. However, there are some sober-minded circles with good common sense who favor a peaceful settlement of Afghanistan. They are against fundamentalist regimes, and the United States administration has to take these tendencies into account.
The Soviet Foreign Minister Shevardnadze and the American Secretary of State Baker are meeting soon. This intensification that we notice of the war effort against the Kabul regime, do you think this is designed to influence the agenda?
As far as the position of the Soviet Union is concerned, it has time and again shown its preparedness to solve Afghanistan's problems through peaceful means. The US is stressing on military gains. This indeed is a deep contradiction and shows lack of sincerity of the United States towards a peaceful settlement of Afghanistan.
American representatives have been meeting ex-King Zahir Shah in Rome. What do you think? Is there any life in this particular initiative of the United States?
تماس‌های مقامات رسمی ایالات متحده آمریکا
American officials are contacting both local commanders and political personalities, including ex-King Zahir Shah. This shows that American expectations have not been fulfilled by the interim government. Americans and the interim Afghan government are giving a new turn to their failed policies.
You have invited all the Afghans interested, involved in the Afghanistan dispute for talks and ceasefire. Surely you can also invite the king as part of this larger dialogue. In what capacity do you see him entering Afghanistan, and what specific role can he play?
ما بارها گفتیم و به استناد گفته شما دعوت کردیم.
Time and again we have stressed the role which various social and political organizations and individuals can play in the peace process, and Zahir Shah can also do so. His role will be determined by how influential or effective he is going to be in the peace process. We think that a diverse spectrum of individuals and organizations taking part in the peace process will make it more durable.
Are your representatives talking to him in Rome?
تماس‌ها با تمام نیروها و تمام بخش‌ها از جانب ما صورت گرفته است. منتها بعضی جوانب خود را اکتیو نشان داده و بعضی جوانب خود را پسیو. ما توقع مایی هست.
Contacts have been established with various forces outside. Some sides are active and some passive. All the Afghan forces inside and outside the country must realize that the most important thing is to ensure peace.
So you consider the king as a possible actor in the peace process?
Yes.
You are talking about a ceasefire before talks. The opposition analysis seems to be that if there is a ceasefire, all the opposition fighters will go back to their villages and the war will be over. This being the situation, how do you propose to break the impasse? How do you, this is the situation, then how do you propose, by what act of statesmanship can you break this impasse?
Interesting question. Why do we want to cease fire? Our people want peace, and that is our top priority. Why do they want negotiations first and not a ceasefire? What they want is a place in power. But if we have to choose between peace and power, we will choose peace. Our position is clear. We have already spelt out the mechanics for a peaceful settlement.
Their view is to find how much share they will have in the power.
در دو قطب صلح طلبی و کرسی طلبی ما مقدم اول صلح طلبی را می‌خواهیم.
Why don't you spell out the mechanism now in this
We have already said what we want. It is now for the opposition groups to express their views.
Mr. President, Iran seems to be moderating its stand on Afghanistan. In Belgrade, your representatives had indirect and perhaps even lobby talks with the Iranian representatives. Iran introduced important amendments in the NAM resolution on Afghanistan, and you accepted those amendments. Does this indicate better relationship does it promise better relationship between the two countries from now onwards?
بعد از تکمیل قطعات محدود اتحاد شوروی به نظر ما هیچ مانعی.
After the withdrawal of Soviet troops, we see no problem in normalization of our relations with Iran. As far as Afghanistan is concerned, we want good relations with all the neighboring countries, including Iran.
I gather an Iranian Red Cross team is in Kabul for the first time. This itself to me seems like a significant gesture.
You are correct.
You're correct.
So Iran has been suggesting for a long while, in fact I recall a brief conversation I had with Foreign Minister Velayati in 1987, They have been suggesting a conference of the regional countries who are concerned with the Afghan problem. The three countries they have in mind is Iran, Pakistan and the Soviet Union, to consider the problem in their neighborhood, namely Afghanistan. What is your response to this suggestion now?
شما آگاه هستیم که ما پیشنهادات و طرح‌های مختلفی را
As you know, we have forwarded a series of proposals. One is the proposal regarding an international conference on Afghanistan to be attended by Afghanistan, its neighbors, India, the United States, and the UN Secretary General. The second proposal is that of a regional conference in which Afghanistan and its neighbors will participate. This is in conformity with the Iranian proposal.
Regional conference consisting of which countries?
ما ریجنال کنفرانس گفتیم.
The number of countries may increase or decrease. The proposal is in conformity with the Iranian suggestion.
So what you're saying is that there can be a regional conference as the Iranians are proposing, followed by a larger conference that you had earlier indicated.
It is possible.
It is possible.
Now, one question that always arises is that in the broad-based government that you have,
یا اون طرف هم میتونه شد بین
Or
المللی
it
و
could be vice versa, that first international conference and then a regional conference.
okay. The million-dollar question always remains that when you do get the dialogue going with all sides concerned, and you do set up a government, a broad-based government in Kabul, what role will the PDPA play in that? Will it have 90%, 50%, 20%, etc.? Or you have not yet arrived at percentages yet until the dialogue gets going?
ما قبلا برای شما پاسخ دادیم که هر
As I have
نیروی
pointed out
سیاسی
earlier, the role of any group is determined by what influence it commands.
مؤثریت
As for the PDPA, it has brought a new social order in Afghanistan in the last 10 years. We also formed an alliance with 7 other parties which are legally active in Afghanistan. Such a force will certainly have influence in Afghanistan, and we are sure it will have the support of the majority of the people. Otherwise, whatever the people's verdict, it will be acceptable to us.
جمهوری افغانستان
How would you gauge people's will first? I mean, in other words, will you have a lower jirga again? Who is going to organize the elections? The PDPA or which? What is the mechanism you have in mind?
چرا ما این مکانیزم به طور مفصل در
I have already expressed it at the 9th NAM summit.
ما بخریم اسناد رقم‌تر می‌خواهیم.
I wanted you to spell these out for the viewers.
میگه من خوانده بودم
باز تکرار میکنم مکانیزمی برم که اول یک آتش بس باید باشه.
First, ceasefire. Then, a dialogue. Then, a peace conference on Afghanistan, which will set up a leading council. This leading council will form a broad-based government. The broad-based government will ensure ceasefire and draft a new constitution and laws of elections to be approved by Loya Jirga, or the Grand Assembly. After this election is conducted, whoever gets the majority will form the government, a single party or a coalition.
There are reports of build-up in Balochistan in Quetta area for a possible winter assault on Kandahar. And I believe that a convoy from the north has moved along the western route towards Kandahar. Has it reached Kandahar? And are you prepared for this winter offensive?
بعد از عودت قطعات اطلاع شوروی حوادث و رویدادها در ظرف چند ماه نشان داد
Following the withdrawal of Soviet troops from Afghanistan, the months that have elapsed show that Pakistan, in violation of all international conventions, that is, the military circles of Pakistan, have launched An offensive against border cities in Afghanistan like Jalalabad and Kandahar, the creation of the air bridge between Quetta and Chaman, and the massive deployment of forces in the area show the adventurous plans of Pakistan. But I would like to emphasize that just like the armed forces of Afghanistan repulsed the attacks on Jalalabad and other cities, we are fully prepared to meet any threat in any direction. We are fully aware of the potentialities of the Afghan soldiers and the freedom-loving people of Afghanistan.
So on your way from Belgrade, you stopped over in Romania. Has President Ceausescu offered to play some kind of a mediatory role between you and maybe the regime in Pakistan?
On the way back from Belgrade, we did visit Romania, and we found that the Romanian side support the national reconciliation policy of Afghanistan. The Republic of Romania expressed full preparedness, its willingness to play any role in convening a peace conference to bring about peace in Afghanistan.
So in the Belgrade document on Afghanistan, the last paragraph says that the outgoing chairman, firstly you thank the outgoing chairman of NAM, and then you invite the new chairman of NAM to work towards peace and a peaceful settlement of the Afghan dispute. And Pakistan has endorsed this paragraph since everything in NAM is done by consensus. Now how do you propose to build on this little opening that you have got?
Yes, at the non-aligned summit we did propose that NAM should form a group for the settlement of the Afghan problem, but this proposal received hostility from Pakistan. Due to the clout of the influential members of the non-aligned movement, Pakistan, in the end, had to approve of this peace proposal to enable the chairman to work out a resolution of the Afghan dispute.
So where do we go from here now? What diplomatic initiatives do you have in mind between now and the UN General Assembly?
We had wanted that this authority be entrusted to a committee, a body of NAM. But that this responsibility has been entrusted to the chairman of NAM indicates Pakistan's isolation and a victory of peace-loving nations. Between now and the UN General Assembly session, we have planned that a meeting of the foreign ministers should convene within the framework of the non-aligned bureau. This meeting should draft a practical plan for peace in Afghanistan. It will then be forwarded to the United Nations General Assembly. Once again, at the UN General Assembly, we shall emphasize the mechanism for peace inside Afghanistan, and we shall emphasize the need to push forward the UN's role in ensuring that the agreements signed in Geneva are implemented. They were also signed by Pakistan, with the US and the USSR as international guarantors. Their agreements and pledges have been faithfully implemented by Afghanistan and the Soviet Union, and grossly violated by Pakistan and the United States. To enhance the honor and prestige of the United Nations, we emphasize that the Geneva Accords should be strictly implemented.
So what role can India play in the resolution of the Afghan problem? And are you satisfied with the role that the government of India has played all along?
India, as a great and respected nation of the world, has always had a very principled attitude towards Afghanistan. And as a great nation, it can play a great role with the countries around Afghanistan for a settlement of the Afghan dispute. India's attitude has always been precise and principled, and we reflect with deep gratitude on the role of India.
So you have coped with Jalalabad, you have coped with Khost, you have coped with the siege of Kandahar, and now this rocketry on Kabul seems to have increased. How long will you be able to keep the morale of the people?
By launching aggression and terrorism, the enemy wanted to weaken the morale of the people. On the contrary, in the face of aggression, their morale is higher, and they are staunchly defending the nation. These acts of aggression and terrorism have only helped to isolate the enemy and make them unpopular in the eyes of the people.